It is 7:03, and I'd like to call to order the select board meeting for Thursday, April 13th. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I apologize, we're supposed to take a roll call. I'm going to do it. We have Kevin Snyder's joining us on web, not Zoom, I guess. Not sure which it is. All those present, Kevin Snyder.
Here.
Michael Toole.
Aye, here.
Steve Hornsby.
Present.
And I too am present. Alec Rich is not joining us this evening. All right. So let's start with requests for appointments to Town Common Committee.
We received an email from Bob Kimball, who worked as chairman of the Town Common Committee previously, and he wants to see if we can get that committee active again. And I did provide you with a list of who's on that committee, and I'll discuss with Bob and see if he knows anyone else that wants to serve on there and bring some names back in the future.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Through you, Mr. Town Manager, did he give you an explanation? Obviously, there's just so many committees that we have. Did he give you an explanation? Obviously, it's great if they get going and all that stuff. Did he give you an explanation on what his hope is in getting the committee going?
Yeah, he said he'd like to have a group to continue to oversee the restored common so the common doesn't fall into disrepair again like it did before they got involved.
I think it was sparked by the whole gazebo, right?
Yeah.
That's right, he's in that gazebo.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from.
And on the committee previously, there's representatives from Veterans, Wheaton College, the Historic District, Cultural Council, Park and Rec, Highway, the Garden Club, and the Fire Department. So I'll check with the people that were on the committee, see if they want to remain active, and get back to you.
All right, any questions? All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of March 16th, 2023, April 6th, 2023, and the executive session on April 6th, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the minutes. So moved. That's probably easier.
I'll second, but do we need to go back
We don't need to vote on the...
to expand it by one position? But we already do that. I'll second for the minutes.
Kevin Snyder? On the minutes?
Yes.
Mike Toole?
Aye.
Steve Hornsby?
Yes.
I too am a yes. Approved. I'm sorry, so...
And Steve's right, I missed that part.
That's right. So a motion to, let's see, expand the Town Common Committee by one position to include a citizen at large, to bring the total members to 9.
Just point of inquiry. Madam Chair, Mike, is this a bylaw committee? Is this on the bylaws?
What's that?
Is this committee in the bylaws? Is it established? Is membership established in the
Yeah, I'm
bylaws?
not sure, I'll look.
Yeah, can we
vote on it?
wait? We would have to, I mean, we can't vote if it's in the bylaws, we can't, I mean, we're not gonna add it here.
Right.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
Thanks.
All right, moving on.
Sorry to
all right.
disrupt that, but I think we just get it right.
No, I don't want to have to take it back. All right, we're moving to licenses and permits. Let's see, we're going to start with, do you want to start with the motion to vote and approve?
Yeah, we're gonna do,
We can do,
so I'll motion to vote and approve the application for the, oh wait, we're gonna do, it's not 1 through
no, it's
7.
3
it's
through 7.
3 through 7, okay.
But they don't need to, I mean, they don't.
Okay, a vote to approve the, motion to approve the one-day all alcohol liquor license for the private events at Everett Leonard Park on number 3 through 7 on the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
Obviously, they're presented here, so I'm assuming they've all been signed off on and we've saw them in the packets, so that was my only, I just wanted to double check that. So, no other.
Nothing? All right. Kevin Snyder? Approving
Yes.
the, okay. Mike Toll?
Aye.
Stephen Ormsby?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. All right, now we go back to the other licenses.
Motion to approve the application of Bug Iron Brewing for a common particular license to be utilized at 33 West Main Street, Norton.
Second?
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Steve?
Yes.
I too am a yes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the special events application for the Memorial Day Parade scheduled for Monday, May 29th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Steve?
Yes.
I too am a yes. All right.
Madam Chair, before we move on from that,
Yes.
just, Mike, did you have a follow-up with the town council regarding alcohol licenses at Everett Leonard requiring a one-day insurance, any insurance or anything?
I have not, I can,
If you could, that would be great. Thanks.
All right, now motion to approve the one-day beer and wine liquor license to Robert Midas for a public event at 98A Burt Street from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, May 6th, 2023, with the rain date of Sunday, May 7th, 2023.
Second?
Second. Just trying to catch up with the paperwork here, I'm sorry.
Yep. Are there any questions? Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
I too am a yes. All right, one more.
So motion to approve the one-day beer and wine liquor license to Robert Midas for a private event at 98A Burt Street, Norton, Mass. from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday, June 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Any questions? Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
And I put a yes. All right, announcements. There is an annual town election on Saturday, April 29th, 2023 at the Norton Middle School from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Did you know that? That's the announcement. It's on the website. I know there's been alerts going out.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, we obviously have had the last couple of weeks discussions about trying to get the notice out there. I've worked with the town clerk, and she's taken this, and we've worked with signs. Obviously, the highway department put out the sandwich sign, basically saying election month, but more importantly, we're gonna get the banner, we're gonna get an election banner that used to go across the
Right.
street, and we're gonna place that out there. It's gonna be done within the week.
I like the heart signs. I hadn't seen them before.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
good.
Steve Silva's team
Yeah.
did a good job getting those signs done.
Yeah.
And Lucia's done it. Lucia took the spare. I mentioned it to her. I said, "Do you think we should do this?" And next thing I know, she was already speaking about the signs, getting the signs up. So we'll get those in the next probably within the next week or so. That will be hung and out. And we're going to use it. We're going to get it so it's not a one-time sign. That going forward, that banner will go out a couple of weeks before the election.
Great. Thank you. Yes, I know. We're going to move agenda items around a little. So we have a presentation, or we're going to review and discuss and/or vote on town meeting article to include, but not limited to zoning articles. So Maria, I'd love for you to come and present.
Please state my name and position.
Yes, please.
Maria de la Fuente, I'm the Director of Planning and Economic Development. So I'm here today to present the Planning Board's report to the Select Board. We had a hearing on April 11th in which we discussed the town's warrant articles for zoning. And we had two articles up for discussion. One was for ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installations, and one was for our FEMA, like flood zone bylaw. So the first one is our large-scale ground-mounted solar installations. We had two public hearings. They were advertised 4 weeks in the newspapers. And the purpose of this amendment originally was to change the bylaw to be large-scale and have it be medium and small-scale solar as well. So we're trying to expand the sizes and types of solar and change the definition of ground-mounted to include ballasted solar and canopy solar. We also have roof-mounted solar. We're trying to be mindful of the state's clean energy goals for 2050. The reason for us, the planning board, not choosing to recommend this article was that there were some concerns about energy storage systems. It's something that there's very little case law regarding solar right now. We have Tracer Lane, which came out on July of the past year, and nothing else. We have AG's opinion on some battery system and the way they should be interpreted or regulated, but it's a little murky right now. So the planning board chose to wait until we have a little bit more information. Case law might be a little, it takes time for it to be released and publicized, but they're going to try to form a committee in maybe over the summer, do some public information, public outreach, feel the temperature of the town, exactly what they would like to allow. We had a resident who spoke out against batteries in the flood zone. He was very concerned about hazardous materials in water protection areas. There's a critical environmental concern. So this resident is also going to be present in the next meeting, so hopefully we can find a good middle ground between what is promoted by the state and what is safe for the town, and we're going to keep an eye for future case law. So on the hearing of April 11th, the planning board voted to withdraw the article from the Springtown meeting warrant to be revisited possibly in the fall. I'm putting in for some grant money to do a zoning codification for next year, so that's our backup plan. If we're not able to do this by fall, we might be revisiting this October 2024, but hopefully it's coming. We're trying to be more inclusive and more aligned with the state goals, but it is a little hard to do right now just because there's not much out there. And I know in your packet you also have a letter from our planning board chair. Again, I basically gave a brief summary of this. They want to do it once and do it well, so we're choosing to postpone that one. But the planning board did choose to recommend our floodplain district bylaw. This is an amendment that will ensure that the town is up to date with the FEMA's latest model bylaw and the latest flood insurance rate maps. This amended bylaw will also give the town of Norton the tools to deal with and an avenue to correct any zoning violations that exist in the floodplain, which have severe implications for the health and safety of residents. We've had a couple maybe non-ideal experiences, which either people hadn't realized they were in the floodplain or they did a little bit too much work. There's a very delicate threshold that if you exceed a certain amount of work in the floodway, then your entire house will need to be flood-proofed. And that is a very expensive, very thorough, complicated process to go through that requires an architect, a contractor, engineer. So we didn't have proper avenue to correct violations, and that was an area of concern because you need to be able to rectify it without telling them undo that work or tear down that house. So we have included that now. We've had everything revised by FEMA and approved by them. This is very standard language. It's basically the Massachusetts model bylaw with a little bit of Norton flavor that we already had. So there's not any major changes. Town council was fine with what she saw. We did have a resident attend both public hearings on March 28 and April 14th and share his concerns with us. This resident's concerns was that our bylaw was not being restrictive enough. He indicated that he would like to see very little development, if at all, in the floodway, which is like rivers and channels. Very few permitted uses in a floodplain, which is just the average, like the overall flood zone. And he would like to see a prohibition of hazardous materials in the floodplain, such as copper. Town council was a little hesitant to amend the bylaw other than strictly necessary because flood insurance is a little delicate and we wanted to ensure that we would at least keep the current coverage. Then on April 11th, the same resident said that he would like the planning board to propose a more restrictive bylaw to improve our flood insurance. He mentioned that Norton currently gets a 5% flood insurance premium discount and the highest you can get is 45. So, like Quincy gets 45%. He,
Is that because Quincy's based on water? I mean, it's literally on the,
well, I think I reviewed, there's 19 different categories based on which you can get a discount. Zoning is like 3 out of the main 7. So there's a lot of things we can do to improve things. Maybe we might be able to get from a 5 to a 10% discount. But a lot of them include maintaining your infrastructure, improving your infrastructure, like cleaning catch basins more regularly. A lot of it is revolved around public education. Letting the public know exactly what they can or cannot do. Some of it is actually removing or moving buildings away from the flood zone, which that can get complicated fast. So there's definitely different levels. We are one step above the bottom right now, but this is mandated by FEMA to be approved before the end of this year. So the approach that the planning board decided to take, given these concerns and the possibility for improvement, was that we were going to propose the model bylaw language for spring town meeting, because if anything, for some reason it doesn't get passed, we'll have another shot in the fall and still be able to comply with, keep our coverage for everyone. And we were going to look into basically a phased approach. We're going to do, the basic bylaw right now to comply, and then hopefully in the fall we're going to take some time over the summer to study this issue and see if there's anything we can change in zoning that might give the residents of Norton a little bit of a bigger discount and protect the town a little bit more in its flood zones. So again, this is going to take some studying. I'm going to be working with Eric Carlson, who is the FEMA coordinator for Massachusetts, and our floodplain manager, CRS manager. So we might be revisiting this one, but because it is required by the federal government to be passed, we want to play it safe first and then see if we can propose something a little more restricted later. So those are my updates. I believe you have a copy of the proposed floodplain district bylaw. Everything's in yellow, underlined, and bolded means it's new. Everything that is in red, stricken through, and bolded means we're removing it.
I didn't get color copies. I don't know what's going on.
That's why it's bolded enough.
yeah.
That was a nice way of saying, hey, I still bolded it.
I was warned that the warrants are printed black and white, so. We also have copies of this in color, because I very much prefer color, in our planning board page. There's the proposed zoning articles if you'd like to take a look at that. And if you'd also like to see what we were proposing in solar, you can take a look at what we're hopefully going to be working through in the summer and maybe proposing in the fall. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Maria, is there any help that, obviously the floodplain, it's very complicated, and I will surrender, you're well ahead of that. But on the solar side, is there anything that the board can do and help you, obviously, to make sure that we're in line with the state requirements and the direction that we're going on? Or is it really is a sit and wait and see kind of thing?
I appreciate that. I think for now, it might be a wait and see. There's a lot of things that we could do that we might be maybe the first in the state to propose. I see very little zoning bylaws that actually include medium and small scale, which is why I wanted to propose it. And we're also going to have different categories that if you're a resident putting ground-mounted solar in your backyard because maybe your roof can't support it, you have different requirements. It's just a little tricky. I think there's only 2 cases of solar and then 1 on batteries, and that was moratorium related. So it might be a wait and see, but also the AG is being very, he's scrutinizing very closely anything related to clean energy. He really wants to promote it. So even a discretionary permit such as a special permit, that might get turned down by the AG. So if we were able to, I was proposing a site plan review for things such as solar because that depends only on health, safety, and welfare. It's kind of like how you regulate a church or school. That's more closely aligned with what the state's trying to achieve. But if we were able to change just 1 line in the solar bylaw, the AG can strike down everything. And the planning board wasn't ready to take that chance. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
When you say that year end, you mean fiscal year end or calendar year end?
For which one?
For the federal government's requirements.
Calendar year.
Okay.
December 23 or February, January 24. So that's what we're getting.
Just to reiterate, on the flood changes, that was it was unanimous on the planning board, correct?
Yes, they were both unanimous decisions. 7-0. And we've had town council review both of them and She didn't raise any issues with the solar, other than like, this is kind of unprecedented and you're taking a chance. Either way, you're taking a chance. And the planning board just didn't feel comfortable taking that chance yet before doing a further study, especially around battery systems. Like, we had residents raise concerns.
Any other questions? Kevin, any questions?
No, I'm good.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your work.
Thank you. Have a good
All
day.
right, thank you.
So do we need to vote
We're
to
gonna,
endorse that? At town meeting?
We are gonna get to articles, but you can
Okay.
vote on that one
Yeah.
now if you want.
Might as
We can do
well.
it, yeah.
all right,
So I don't see being wait, no need to wait for Alec, I think we're fine.
is there a motion to?
Motion, oh, sorry. You're, at- you can say it better than me. No, you,
It's number 16, I think. Motion to, we endorse?
endorse.
Yeah, motion to endorse the
Recommendations.
recommendations from the planning board for the floodplain district.
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
I tell me yes. Great, thank you.
Thanks, Maria.
All right, do we have a motion to open the public hearing
So moved.
on the application of Bog Iron Brewery?
So moved.
Second.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, we have to do a roll call on that.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
I tell me yes. All right, Brian, I'd love to have you come up.
Sure.
Welcome.
Thanks for
You
having me.
didn't bring any.
No, I thought that would probably be a little inappropriate. So, introduce myself. My name's Brian Shirtliff. I'm the owner of Bog Iron Brewing in town.
Great. So we're here to hear about your license that you're.
Sure, yeah, so this is really just a formalization of the, under COVID, the state was extremely lenient in letting businesses open in outdoor space. The state is now rolling that back, so this is the beginning of that formal process to go through that with the town and the state to have our alteration of premises, there we go. To include just some maneuvering within the building, as well as the addition of the beer garden. I was told about a week or so ago, not unexpectedly, the state has now moved that out another year or so. So that said, this is something, if I've got 1.5 feet into this process already, might as well get it over with, and get it done.
Exactly.
So I talked to Nick about it. I owe him a little bit of information that I'm still waiting for my architect to get. But in the meantime, whatever process or progress rather we can make on it, let's put it that way.
So, Mike, given that it's a little premature, but what can we vote on now that would help?
You can approve it.
Pending the
Pending
application.
all
Yeah.
the-
Sign it.
So you don't have to come back to us. That's basically what it is.
I'm sure, I just would like to say, in preparation for this, at Bog Iron, and Brian has made some great changes. They've added 2 sliding doors that basically open up and make the room area. They've just basically, almost, it doesn't look remodeled, but it just kind of did some finishing touches. I think it looks, and I encourage all residents to get in there and take a look at it. It's pretty nice what you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, when we took over that space, it was really temporary space that our landlord was generous enough to let us kind of legally squat, if you will, for free during COVID, which was incredibly generous, like I said. And when we went in there, it was literally the same space that was there when Fernandes was there. That space has been vacant for the 20 years that I've lived in town, as long as I can remember, and it's just storage for all Sean. With the exception of the ceiling, we've absolutely revamped everything in that space and turned it into a much more attractive retail space. To Jerry's benefit, probably in the long term. But yeah, the overhead doors have been a huge plus. I mean, there's no light in that room up until we added those. The overhead window that we just put in now, that will be in the next coming weeks, will be an indoor-outdoor bar so people can sit out of the beer garden. And we're having live music there. apparently we're having a kitchen open here really soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a long process, but it's, we're really excited about the space.
Well, great, thank you. Any questions or? All right. Can we get a motion to approve
Close-
pending?
No, close the hearing first, right? And then we
If
have.
there's anybody,
Yeah, as far as the hearing, I only have two abutters. It's my own landlord and the bank.
Yeah,
I don't think
we have to
anybody's
close the hearing,
coming.
then we vote, then discussion about it, But we just basically close the hearing, then we vote
motion
on
to
it.
be able to speak first.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to speak?
Just.
Any comments? All right, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Aye.
Michael? Stephen?
Yes.
I too, a yes. All right, now, can we get a motion?
Yeah. It's, motion to approve the application for Bog Iron Brewing LLC for alteration of premises on the malt-only annual license for pouring permit, pending the items needed for application. Did I
By the
mess that up?
state?
I just read
By,
that.
Sign-offs from
The-
all departments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pending the sign-offs from all departments.
second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
I too, a yes.
Perfect.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it,
For a
brother.
while.
Bring on more sodas.
I'm sorry.
More sodas.
Yes, I'm working on this.
What did you want?
Sours.
That will be not next, but right at the second. Thank you very much.
All right, next, we're gonna review and or approve Solar Retail Norton Host Community Agreement, First Amendment. Renee? Yes, come on up. You wanna take over here? Right over there?
I don't know that I'm gonna be able to see and,
Oh, yep.
do you mind if I just sit here with all my stuff? That's okay. It's the electronics. Mike will have it up, but I'm like, can't see that. Mike, can you make that bigger? Okay, so,
Been a
just.
long time coming.
Yeah, and this is a different one that's been on the agenda, but Mike and I were working on this one too. So just to provide a little bit of background, if you guys remember, last time we spoke about this last year, actually it was early on in the year, the Cannabis Control Commission changed some of their regulations on what you can use funding for community impact. So Mike and I had quite a bit of discussion with the town council to determine, you know, not only if there were changes that we needed to make, but what changes we really needed to communicate to the board and to others. So just to kind of structure this, when the initial process happened, the way that the host community agreements were, they focused around like 4 different, what I would call financial commitments. So the first one was a community impact fee, which could be no more than 3%. The second one was an annual community benefit, and that was based on really just whatever the applicant offered to the town. We didn't negotiate it, we just accepted what their commitment, what they said their commitment was. And that was specifically, at the time, our understanding was that we would be able, the town would be able to use that money to fund substance abuse trainings, any sort of prevention programs, you know, other things like, from an impact perspective to the town infrastructure, roadways, things like that. We knew at the time, just because other cannabis, especially retail companies open, that there wasn't really an impact to infrastructure, so we knew that there was going to be some limitation there, but it was presented as we would have a little bit more freedom. So some of the things that we talked about were things like, you know, with the fees coming in, we would use it to supplement or pay for things like Narcan, right? Like things that we had to do as the town to be prepared to respond to substance abuse. So that changed through the legislation over the past year. So what we considered are 2 things. One was, you know, how much money are we going to collect from these businesses and then not be able to spend, right? And so it kind of becomes, and you can speak more to this on the accounting side.
Yeah, part of the problem is that if we collect this money and the way the legislation reads, we could be compensated for, we have certain direct expenses, and if not, we would more than likely have to give the money back. And right now, there's no provision. We're gonna look in the fall and see if we can set up an account that this money would go into. But right now, there's no provision for that. So this money would come into the general fund. Say we get $38,000 from a company. And then 2 years from now, they say, well, you never had any expenses, we want our $38,000 back. Well, now we gotta find that money and pay them back. So that's part of the concern with it. And we hope in the fall to be able to have money appropriated out of free cash to go into account to be used for certain things. And then at least it'll be there.
So it's not an accounting nightmare for James.
It is.
Right. So a couple of things that we talked about, and this actually came from one of the applicants, was proposed to us was to put a community impact fund cap on the CFI overall. Because right now what it is each quarter they would pay 3% or 1.5% or whatever their HCA was listed at, and then we would continue to collect those monies, right? So potentially at the end of the year, like if we use solar retail as an example, I think they paid almost $30,000 for their first 3 months or 4 months of business. So that would continue. So potentially at the end of the year, we could have over $100,000 per company, and it's just money, to Mike's point, that it's sitting there and we might not be able to use it. So it was proposed to us, and so what we took the opportunity to do, because there have been some changes as well to the annual community benefit and some of the other payments, what the discussions were, do you still, and I have to say, these folks have been incredible, they're great business partners in the town, but we asked them, do you still support your commitments that you previously made through the annual community benefit and the nonprofit charitable contribution? And the two that we talked to have said yes, they do, so that's when we started the conversation. So the proposal was to, and it helps both the town and it helps, it's mutually beneficial for both parties. So the discussions have been, and you'll see in the changes that Mike has up here, but essentially, put a limitation on the community impact fee. But that limitation means if we draw down on the funds, they continue to pay until we hit the fund cap again. As it's structured in this one, the cap is at $35,000. So for example, he paid almost $30,000. The first quarter, he would pay essentially $5,000 until we drew down on that money. And this amount, it was presented to us, but Mike did a lot of work to figure out, well, what could we potentially use it for? So one of the things that we had back from, I think, 2021, or no, it was actually from 2019 initially, so the costs have changed a little bit, but from Chief Clark, was for the drug recognition expert training, not only for the training itself, but the hours for overtime. So the estimates that we had for that, and then also the advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement training. Totaling that, what he was looking for 20 officers at that time was about $29,000. So in addition to that, we've had, some of the other fees that we would charge back are town council fees. So that's not something that, the town overall would incur. And that goes back to when we first started with the EDC and updating the bylaw, having town council review it, the process through town meeting. So all of those hours can be billable back to these community impact fees. And then the other thing that was on the HDAs is, for whatever reason, we had this separate section of payments, and that officer training was in there. And so there's you'll see language in here on the changes to just say that for all of those expenses, they will be drawn out of the community impact fees. Like there will be a separate.
Up to the cap, right?
Well, so what it is again, we would draw to the cap. If we exceeded that point, they would have to put another, they would have to refund it back to $35,000, and then we would draw down on it. Now, what can't happen is, say for example, they weren't making that much money, it's still the community impact fee, the cap or whatever they put into that, it's still at like 3%, right, of their business. So that's something that we would have to watch. I don't anticipate, and Mike, you tell me, I don't anticipate that we're gonna have that issue. I think our bigger issue is going to be that we have this money sitting there and just making sure that at what point we have to pay it back, that it's available to do so. So that's one of them. And then additionally, back to their commitments, they have agreed to restructure that. So like I said, the annual community benefit, what we thought that we would be able to use those funds for doesn't exist anymore. So in conversations, what we offered was to change that to an annual gift to the town. So what we'll review here, one of the things was to put it towards the projects. So we would have the athletic field, town hall, and the community center. The donations there would be given into a gift fund, and then they would have public recognition as well for those. And then additionally, they still committed to the charities as well. There was a little shift. We didn't change the overall commitment, the annual commitment, but we did shift it a little bit to be a little more beneficial to them on the tax side. So, for example, for Solar Retail Norton, their two commitments were $25,000 each. And so we shifted out of it where the gift to the town is $20,000 and the charitable contribution is $30,000 annually. So just a shift there so they could have some additional tax benefit, at least in the state of Massachusetts. So if we go through this, the three documents that were sent, the initial one is the HCA itself, and we just redlined it because it's much easier to look at this to see the changes than look at the First Amendment that only lists out the changes. So Mike, if you want, I can't see.
I
So
was going through them as you were talking.
Oh, okay. So Lee, bless you. I see Kevin smiling. So as we mentioned, the community impact fee, the wording was just updated and changed. It still has 3% for gross sales, but it is capped, like if you scroll down, including the new community impact fund cap at $35,000. And as I said, the language there represents it. If we draw down on that, they would just pay to meet back up to that cap level. And then I believe the next change just strikes the annual community benefit from here, as well as there's the annual community benefit payments, and then it should be, there's some changes here with the additional cost payments and reimbursements that we talked about. Mike, if you want to keep scrolling. Again, just we're saying here that instead of us essentially invoicing them, is how we had it written before, that we would just take those expenses from the community impact fee. Yeah. Which we probably should have done in the beginning, I think. So minor adjustment in that payment section, and then the next one is the charitable contributions, and that was removed from the HCA, and we'll talk about the memo here in a minute, the memo of agreement. So all of this was updated in that regard, and it's just focusing on those areas and really where the legislation changed, and how we continue to have a really good partnership with the companies. And Andre Arzabanian, who's the owner of Solar Retail Norton, he is very committed to supporting the town and has asked on multiple occasions how he can do it. So he's offering, we've provided to him the Eat a Great cleanup opportunity, the Clean Norton for Earth Day. He's also been in contact with the folks from Need about having his crew paint the ends around town. So he's really looking for opportunities not only to support the community, but also have some team building. Not just financial stuff, but he's looking to really get involved in the community.
Let me say, John Thomas's eyes lit up when I mentioned to him that he should contact me. So.
Yeah. So that's something, so one of the changes, that's actually a good segue, Mike. One of the changes that we just talked about last week was Habitat for Humanity is here and they're looking for a sponsor, right? Well, the way that the HCA's were written was the charitable contributions don't happen until at the end of 12 months of operation, right? So annually they would do that. So we talked about, we thought it would be beneficial for the town based on, what the needs were at the time, but also for them so that the company wasn't giving out $30,000 at the end of the year, right? They could support different charities. So as things happen, one of the things I talked to them about too, like for an example, is it takes a community, right? They weren't able to have their annual basketball game, so that might be something that they would want to support now. But the Habitat for Humanity was a perfect one. Like in a year, right, that the funding may not be needed or the support might not be needed. So it's an opportunity for them to support the town as the needs arise, right? But the same process is in place. They would identify the nonprofit, they would come to the board for approval, and then that money would just, what's the word I'm looking for? Total sum, right, the commitment, the $30,000 annual commitment. So we thought that was a little better, and Andre personally was very excited about that opportunity, and he really appreciated that change in the HCA. So that is one difference in there too, but you won't see that in the First Amendment. So the First Amendment will only touch on the changes to the community impact fee and the cap for that, the fund cap for that, as well as how the payment structure is. Mike, I don't know if we want to look at the First Amendment specifically to see each individual change. It is identified here on the red lines. Are there any questions on any of those changes?
I mean, do you see as, similar to what we're hearing about the solar, as like the state laws and all that are trying to catch up with, the new opportunities in economic growth? Is this something that each year would have to sort of like revisit sort of these agreements, or hopefully not?
They're good for 5 years, the HCA's.
Okay.
It's a great question, but, if the law changes and we have to.
Right, but otherwise it's 5 years and we can.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
I was saying earlier, the MMA did send a letter yesterday, I think, to the Cannabis Commission expressing to them that the communities that already had HCA's in place, it shouldn't affect those HCA's, the new law, that it only should affect new ones. So, but that hasn't been made clear.
Right, and that's kind of, that's the difficult situation, is we don't know exactly what the legislation will be. But we do know, so for example, right, they came out, and while the intent was there initially from the CCC to do this for the community impact fees, they never actually wrote in the legislation. So for example, they're talking that right now they actually have published that the possible costs for the community impact fees could include the municipal inspection costs, traffic intersection design studies, public safety personnel overtime costs, environment impact studies, and then substance abuse prevention programming. So when we looked at this, we're like, okay, as a town, like, where do we see that impact? And it's really around the substance abuse prevention programming. One of the things Dr. Bayetta talked about was they're developing specifically a marijuana prevention for, I think it's part of like the health and wellness course at the high school. Right, so that might be something where we can look at fees to do it. But it was not meant to be a revenue generator, the community impact fees, right? It was meant to
Alleviate
Right,
real action,
the
community
impacts.
impact, right.
So, but we always anticipated the additional training for the police officers, and I think while, there's conversation like the impact has to be associated to the facility, there's reasonable expectation that if you're selling marijuana, that there's going to be a higher usage and potentially higher driving under the influence of it. So that was one of the reasons why that has actually always been one of the discussion points.
When you talk about police training, I thought you mentioned that it was 2019 was when
That's
the 29,000 came into play, so obviously that's 5 years ago.
It's different, right, but Chief Clark said, so from September of 22 to March 23rd, he had, I think, 4 officers go through, and it's $2,500.
Okay, all right, so it's not.
Yeah, so it's probably aligned. But I don't think he's looking to put everybody through at the same time either, because of overtime. So I think the $35,000 cap is a fair and decent one, considering that we do anticipate some impacts, but the other thing too is we don't want to be stuck in a situation where something does happen that we didn't anticipate, and the town doesn't have any funds to pay for it. But, thinking down the road, like Mike said, so one of the things the CCC changed as well is, I think from a community impact fee perspective, now you can have, I think it's the HCA and the community impact fee can be for a term of 8 years, which that was a little different. Before it was 5 years and then you can renew. Now you can change it, but we didn't change any of that initial language. We just changed kind of the scope that was affected by the legislation.
Question?
That has all the changes.
So the first amendment, we can go through here, like I said, it's the red lines. It really just says this is what we're changing from the initial document. It's very hard to actually read it and understand what the changes are. That's why we did the red line of the other.
So you mentioned that the annual gift, where
Okay,
where
great
is
question.
that? Yeah.
So
Because it's being struck.
Yeah, so the second document is the memo of agreement. So again, our conversation with them was, do you still support the original commitments that you offered to the town? And they did. So those were removed from the HCA and put specifically in a memo of agreement. And that memo of agreement just identifies almost the entire language is the same except for the payment terms, right? And the shift of the, Mike, do you want to put that up on the screen? The shift of the amounts between the gift to the town and the charitable contributions.
And is there a cap on the, or is the town gift, is it a fixed amount? Gift to the
It
town?
is.
It is.
So the gift to the town is $20,000
Oh,
annually
and then
for
30.
5 years. That was the term before 5 years, so it would be $100,000 over 5 years. Again, it's specifically, you'll see the legal language in here about, I can't read that from here, I'm sorry. About, it has the language from the town article, right, on when we approve these projects. And then it lists on here as well, it does provide the select board to authorize the expenditure of the monies as you see fit. So if there's a need somewhere else, or if it has in there about discussion with the permanent building committee as well. That's specific to the public recognition. Like we didn't want to say, oh, you're gonna get this money and like we're gonna forget about it. We wanted to show that the public recognition can be a room name for them or a plaque or something like that. But that'll be discussion that you'll have with the PBC at a later time.
And then that's approved at town meeting.
No,
No.
so the way that this is written is, it goes into the gift fund and.
And then they present
The
their
select board
ideas?
the select board you have the authorization to, put the money wherever you need it for the project.
Do they make recommendations or no? They just say wherever it's needed and then we let them know?
Well, I mean, I would expect that they would ask about that and you would have some
Right.
discussion
Okay.
on it, right? It allows you to have the final decision. But discussion with them for the public recognition, right, together.
Yep.
So that was a great question, Steve, thank you, and I'm sorry I didn't talk about that. And this is very similar to, like, development agreements that you might have, or, this is a memo of agreement, you can have a memo of understanding. Like, it's not something that's foreign, it's just you typically have those types of agreements separate from, in this case, the HCA. And again, we made some changes under the gift to the town. You'll see here, it does say, and it's a small change, the annual gift to the town may be paid throughout the year, but shall be paid in full annually, and then that's the original language, annually by the end of the year. I think it's 30 days after 12 months of operation. So you might see, next week, you might see Andre here, presenting to support one of the local charities, not in respect to this one, but it's the same language on the charitable benefits as well, the contributions. The other language in there, it's new language. It was not anything that was in the HCA, but it's standard legal language for the memo of agreements. So, like if you go down through the terms and you talk about the conditions and terminations, things like that.
So this section right here, you can see the 30,000 charitable contributions that they're. All right, conditions, what do you?
Man, is it cold in here?
I know.
Feels good.
We froze in here last night.
Yep, I was there 24 hours ago with the EDC meeting, and now I broke out this shirt. See, that's shirt.
That's Peter.
Anything else?
I don't think so. The rest is just the
Yeah.
standard language.
Other questions? Thoughts?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So just a question, if I can, through you to Renee. So what we're looking at here is the final document that council has reviewed.
Yes, so this is the final memo of agreement where we transferred the initial annual community benefit and annual charitable nonprofit contribution to this document.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And it was a template that was provided by them, and then we made the changes as appropriate for those two commitments.
motion for the, hold on, let me get the language here. To approve the Solar Retail Norton House Community Agreement First Amendment.
So moved.
Second. Is there a second? No second? And without this approved, where do we go from there?
No changes.
Yeah, there'll be no changes.
So we wouldn't be switching the community.
Is there an issue that you guys are concerned with?
Madam Chair?
Yep.
2 months ago, like about 2 months ago, we brought up the issue about select board members negotiating HCA's and any amendments on it, and by our bylaws, it clearly states that the executive committee is supposed to be doing this. I made it very clear that I was very uncomfortable with that. This being negotiated outside of this, I think this opens us up to risk. I think this is something that could be challenged. I won't participate in this. While we're still violating our bylaws, I will not be participating in any HCA changes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a reminder that we did have town council sign off on Renee being our negotiator for this, so.
I don't ever remember, Madam Chair, if I may. I don't ever remember seeing that. We did not have them there. They did not advise us. It clearly goes against the wording, the exact wording of executive council negotiating HCA's. I said it 3 months ago, and I'm still with this. I think this is something that could be challenged, and by that would be clearly one of the reasons that would be challenged, is that we're acting against our written bylaws that was passed at town meeting, and this committee still just refuses to recognize that.
Well, we did state that any of us can be present at any of these negotiations.
It's still different than what the bylaw says exactly.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Michael, Mike, do you have the email from town council on this? Because I know she emailed you separately. So the question was asked multiple times, specifically when my term ended. And the select board can identify anyone to represent the select board in these items. While it's conversations of negotiation, the select board has the final negotiation through the ratification at your meetings. Right, so if you said, we don't like this area, we're gonna change it, right, that's the select board's purview to do that. So I think, I wanna be clear on this, like, and Michael, I understand that you don't think that that's the terminology that's there, but the question was asked and answered multiple times, because trust me, I sure wasn't going to do this. I mean, we've spent hours and hours doing this, writing the documents, reviewing it, having conversations with them to get to this point. Like, I don't want to, this is essentially punishing a business, right? This is an opportunity for them to essentially keep money, to put back into their operations. It's also an opportunity for us to shift the commitments where they were before that we will not be able to use, right, into things that can actually support the community. So while I understand, Michael, what you're saying, town council has weighed in on this. It's the select board's purview to ratify these. And I would just ask you to consider that, like, what this does to our local business partner.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Since we're discussing an email from town council, I have the email if you'd like me to read it.
Yeah.
I will.
Michael,
We requested it.
Michael
I
has one
requested it
too.
and it never got it.
Yeah, this, Madam
Months ago, I
Chair,
requested
Madam Chair, this was brought up last time, that we never got this. This was kind of one of those things where I actually wrote a letter of just fairly concern, where one member of the board reached out to council without advising other boards and had representation of council with this. There's been ever since this had happened several months ago, I've been very upset about it, and it is clearly in violation of the strict written rules of our bylaws. And if I just may finish on this note, there are other committees that say we shall appoint or this. This does not say that. It says the executive committee will be the negotiating body. So, and I just won't participate because I'm not going to violate our bylaws.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
first of all, I don't think that's what the language says, but I'd like to go ahead and read this email because it's pretty clear what was asked and what the response was. So can we just hear what our town council's opinion is on this matter? And Mr. Toole does have this email because he responded to it.
Okay, can you go ahead and read it, Devin?
Yeah, it says, the email to town council, Lauren Goldberg, says, I'll just read it word for word. Hi, Lauren, hope you are well. I had a quick question regarding the language below, and that's the HCA agreement language that says the executive body of the municipality is responsible for negotiating the host community agreement on behalf of the municipality. The select board has currently designated the chair of our Economic Development Commission, Renee Daly, as responsible for negotiating the HCA's on behalf of the town. Since our responsibility can, of course, include designating someone to negotiate this on our behalf, this would appear to be appropriate. Is that correct? Or alternatively, does a select board member or the entire select board need to be directly negotiating the HCA's and we need to replace Renee? Many thanks for your help. And then Ms. Goldberg's response was, Kevin, probably easier to talk through this if there are further questions. In short, however, there is nothing that prohibits a person from being designated as the chief negotiator for an HCA. Ultimately, though, that person cannot make promises on behalf of the board or execute that agreement. Also, just an observation, in my experience, it is often the case that a town's professional staff do the negotiating based upon the policy decisions of the board or its designee. Let me know if you have further questions. The town's professional, that's the end. The town's professional staff would be the town manager, I think.
So, Madam Chair, through you, my take on this, and I think you've done a tremendous amount of work here, and I don't necessarily disagree with probably very much in this at all. But I was concerned, similar to Michael, about the use of town council and her not coming to, I never seen that email except for a copy of it when it came to that one meeting about 3 months ago. And I've requested it. I assumed we were going to have town council in to discuss this before we would vote on this, and that's my hesitation. So,
Yeah.
and nothing to do with the actual
Madam
agreement
Chair,
itself, honestly.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may again.
Yeah.
Mr. Hornsby and Mr. Toole both received this email from me on Saturday, December 17th, 2022, because I was concerned about an open meeting law violation. I sent the email to the chair, to you, Meg, and asked for it to be included in the documentation for our next meeting. I can go back and look at the packet, but I'm pretty sure it was in the packet as well. So we're talking 4 months since that email was sent to everybody on the board. So for someone to say that they are surprised that they never saw this, I don't know how that could be. And it's pretty clear in this email that there's no conflict with our bylaws. So I guess I would ask Mr. Toole, through you, what is he basing this idea on, that it could be challenged by who and under what? Like who has given him that advice that this could be challenged? Is that just his feeling?
Chair, if I may. First of all, in the 175-21 definitions, the executive body of the community host agreement, the executive body, which is the select board, of the municipality is responsible for negotiating the host community agreement on behalf of the municipality. It doesn't talk about appointments. It doesn't. I said this last time. I had no idea this project was even happening, and so I'm surprised that it's even come in front of us. And this is the first I'm hearing of it. You know, so we're not negotiating. Our bylaws say it. I had no idea it was happening. That letter that was forwarded to us was actually, my response to it says his response to this was not in response to that email. It was in response to the use of counsel that member Snyder basically neglected to tell the rest of the board that he was contacting town council. And his suggestion that he's all transparent, I take offense to that. And it does clearly state in our bylaws the executive council, and I'll explain that.
Can I just interject here? I think, again, we're all here for the same purpose, right? To serve the town the best to our ability. This is a little bit unique situation, considering that Renee was both the chair of the EDC as well as a select board member when all the host agreements started, the negotiation piece, right? So we are talking about a period of time after she decided to step down. But again, it's a little bit of a, you know, the chicken and the egg here, but there was the discussions about, is there an ability to continue, that not have someone come in new to the whole thing and have to start off, you know, from scratch. So, you know, we are talking, no one's trying to break laws or do anything that's against what's been recommended. We're just trying to, at this point, it'd be my recommendation that this is where we're at, and if people don't feel comfortable voting on it, then we're gonna have to go back to the business, and we're gonna have to, again, renegotiate this.
And I don't think there's a priority that it has to be done tomorrow, Madam Chair. I think there's you know, this is something that obviously protects the town, and I believe in protecting the town, but I don't think that this is the first, I didn't even know this negotiation was going on. I would challenge that if anyone else in the board knew it was going on. And that's, you know, that's something that usually if we have representatives negotiating us and representing us in negotiations, we kind of know that the negotiations are happening.
Madam Chair,
So
may
if I
I?
can-
Sorry, Renee.
No, Steve's support member, go ahead, please.
No, I just wanted to clarify again, that Kevin, if you said that email was sent, then I agree, then I did receive it. I did see the email as presented at that meeting a few months back. My contention is, again, I thought we were going to have this as an agenda item before this came up for vote, so we would have council here to go over this issue and just clarify it once and for all, and not just from an email. Like that.
Madam Chair, I know Renee wants to speak, but, you know, I was going to suggest what Steve just suggested. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Steve, but, you know, if this is a concern that Michael has, then let's have town council explain to us why it is or is not a concern.
That is where I was going in a roundabout way, yeah. Well, and again, I assumed it would be on an agenda before anything would come up. That's why I shouldn't assume anything, ever.
Fair enough.
So, just, I want to address two points. So one, Michael saying that he wasn't aware of these negotiations. When I came to the board in December, we talked about this, and I specifically, in the discussion, Mike and I were talking about having these conversations with all the existing owners, so this should not have been a surprise. I know it didn't appear on the agenda over and over again. In respect to the negotiation process at the last meeting, right, you had withdrawn your motion to make a change, and Michael had also said he didn't want to do it anymore, so that was status quo. You as a board had agreed that we would continue with negotiations on the retail portion with Lucky Green Ladies, right? I mean, that topic has appeared on probably 10 agendas. So I guess my question would just be if there was an issue, and I'm with you, Steve, if there's an expectation that you heard it beforehand, but I thought it was settled then. The board had agreed that we would continue negotiations with Lucky Green Ladies on the retail. So, you know, full steam ahead. I mean, this wasn't something that we were doing behind anybody's back. It was, we talked about it multiple times. The law had changed. We were looking at it, working with the businesses to make sure we were doing, you know, the best for the interests of the town.
And if I can just add to that too, you know, at that time, there was a request for all of town council's communications between individual board members to be sent to all of us, and that didn't happen. So I'd like to add that.
That's what prompted that.
Well, I mean, that also was a request and it didn't happen. So that's something that, I mean, town council is there for everyone, but not just individual board members themselves. And that to me is, not acceptable. So that's something that needs to
And
be.
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair, can I just clarify something, because I want to make it clear that, that I mentioned at the time that this would be a good reason to discuss having a town council policy.
Right.
So when this came up, I went to town council. I have since had this conversation, I believe, with the board, with our board, that yes, I did not, necessarily think that what I did was inappropriate. But yes, it would be good to have a town council policy, which we just adopted. So I'm not really sure what the issue is with how this was handled, because I suggested that we have a discussion about it on the agenda with everyone, so that we could talk about, quote, select board policies and procedures with regards to town council. So again, I'm not really, and I am getting a little, I'm not going to say upset, but I'm certainly not
Frustrated.
appreciating the fact that somehow, when I went to council, like that I did it again after this. I did not do it again. I went to council once. It was brought up at the board respectfully, and I respectfully said, yes, a town council policy would be a good idea. So I don't really know why that's getting thrown back up, but I really don't think it should be.
Madam
So
Chair. Madam Chair.
I appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
a couple of things. I think Mr. Snyder's kind of alluding to my comments, and I would say this. We were talking about that email at that time. We did not have a policy. Not anything new was about that, all right? So if it was, if he took an intention of something new, I did not. The other thing that Ms. Deli had mentioned, Ms. Deli had mentioned was that, I withdrew out of protest because it was with stipulations, and I was not going to take those stipulations that were being proposed. I still strongly believe, I read the words, it doesn't say that negotiated by the executive board or its appointee, it says the executive board. I stick by that. I'll open up to town council, be here, but as of right now, I don't think we should be voting on this.
So I just want to clarify to Mr. Snyder, my comment wasn't in regards to your going to town council. It was just overall that prompted the response. And yeah, you did ask to put it on the agenda for a policy. So my asking for documentation on board members communicating with town council individually wasn't specifically for you. So I didn't know if you took that personally. That's not what I was meaning to say.
All right, I appreciate that, Steve.
All right, look, I don't want to,
I think at this point, we need to
we need to pause.
council, yeah.
So, Madam Chair, the only thing that I will ask is that you can take this up at next meeting, because while Mr. Toole has said that it doesn't have an urgent impact, it does, because the next community impact fee payment is due at the end of this month. So that would mean, I don't know, and I don't think, Mike, that he has shared his revenue for, but potentially we can get another $30,000 or $40,000 that we can't do anything with. And it's also, money now out of his pocket that he can't use for his operations.
I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I personally am not comfortable moving forward, even next meeting, unless we've talked to council. So I'd like to see that on the agenda.
That's
So
why I
we
was
can-
asking if you can, talk to council and then hear this afterwards. I mean, I have no, I brought this up multiple times while I was on the board and after, so I have no concerns that town council is not going to say that this is an approved process. The board is ratifying it at its meeting as the negotiator, as the executive body. So I think that you can have both.
All right, we will figure out the urgency of timing of this, so if we have to do a special meeting, we can do that. So
She's not here for another meeting, is she? Planning board's not meeting tonight.
No, they're not meeting.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you didn't know.
Next meeting is April 25th.
What?
Planning board's next meeting is April 25th.
Oh, we'll figure out a way to, and then obviously the second the MOA as well. We'll just
Sure,
figure it
sure.
out.
And, you know, in between that time, if there are any questions with any documentation, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat about that.
And we appreciate the work
Sure.
done on this.
I appreciate the opportunity to serve the board. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Renee.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks.
Mike, you want to talk about the police department's two Samsung 45-inch screen TVs? On a lighter topic.
So, yeah.
Let's move to the
move.
So they asked that you declare these two TVs surplus so that they can be auctioned off. There's no need for them by any town department.
Motion to,
Motion to declare the police department's two Samsung's 45-inch TVs, the models listed in the agenda as surplus.
Second.
Kevin,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and I too, yes. All right.
Town meeting articles?
No, we have,
No.
Let's give it, yeah. When is our next one?
27.
Is there anything that's layups like that?
What's that?
Any of the town meeting articles that are layups?
Yes,
There's a couple
if we could.
layups, only layups.
Well, we already did the.
So-
I'm really
Well, I know,
good at,
that's
I'm
what-
really bad at layups too.
Article 8. Article 8 is for capital improvements appropriation. This would be to add money to the capital improvement fund. And this came up before the finance committee, and the finance committee voted no action. Something that we could look at in the fall.
So no action on any of the capital
No, putting money
into the surplus. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right.
So does the board want to?
Yeah, that's it.
Is there a motion to take, no, I can't say, I have to positive. Is there a motion to vote in favor of the, to take, no, I mean,
This came up at the finance committee meeting. I said, I know that's always the talk, but can you just say
Say, let's
Your
go
motion
negative, let's
to
go negative on this
move
one.
no action?
Move no action.
Motion
Motion
to-
to move no
there's
action.
no action,
A motion to endorse, and then we all just say no.
I guess.
That's the positive.
Fortunate.
You know,
Okay, motion to endorse Article 8 as written.
No.
I need a second.
no,
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Kevin?
so I'm not even sure what, so we're,
So you say no?
You say no.
but that's
You
no
don't-
action, that's not a no.
You
There's
had
no
to
action.
make me, you had to make me go first?
Yeah.
I have to figure it out.
Huh?
I think it,
Yeah, no.
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 Steve and I too, a no. Not sure. No action.
It's not
Okay.
easy when we're working to it out.
I
The
know.
next article that the finance committee took up the other night was the recommendation from the capital improvement committee to approve the capital plan. I think we discussed that at the previous meeting. And so the capital plan will be a total expenditure of $1,064,788, and $677,988 will come from the capital improvement fund, $192,800 from ambulance reserve, $28,000 from the dog fund, and $166,000 from water surplus retained earnings.
What number is that one?
Number 9. Do we have a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
And I too, yes.
And
I'll recommend.
the next article, Article 10, this is also been recommended by the Capital Improvement Committee. And this is a request from the Water and Sewer Department. And it had to go to the Capital Improvement Committee because it will involve borrowing, and any borrowing has to be recommended by the capital improvement committee on projects. So this would be for $375,000, and this would be used for engineering and design, permitting and construction for a tank aeration system. I don't know if Frank came to your meeting to explain this, but he did. Did he explain it here before? So what they're looking to do is,
He explained it to the select board when he was here.
yeah,
The aerator, the aeration,
it'll
the tank will
improve on
run.
the quality of the water. And they had a higher level of a certain element of water previously, and this will help alleviate that.
But they have to borrow the $375,000?
Yes. They may have to borrow it, so just in
And
case.
finance hasn't voted on this?
They haven't yet.
So should we?
I would wait.
Yeah, I'll
Why we
vote.
vote before finance comes in.
So the only other one, if you want to just go to the ones they voted on, Article 14. This is to use $3,000 from free cash to dispose of large items that the highway department has to pick up that are on the side of the road. And the finance committee did recommend this unanimously.
A motion to endorse Article 14 is written.
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
I too, yes.
That's it for those.
Great. All right, the number 6, right of first refusal.
Yes, so this is a home in town. It's currently an affordable home, and they're trying to find a new buyer for the house and maintain it as an affordable home. But if they don't, they can sell it at market rate. So they've just sent us a letter, and it's sent to the town of Norton on behalf of the current owner of the affordable property on Goldenwood Drive. And based on the housing deed rider, it's determined the maximum resale price for this house is $236,100. And there's a 30-day right of refusal. I don't believe we'd like to become landlords, so I would just recommend that, ask the board to vote not to exercise your right of first refusal, so that I can let Chapin know.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Town Manager, if this, we say we don't take this first right of refusal, and this is a single property, so it's smaller, imagine, right? They move it outside and they sell it on the open market, how does that affect the 10%?
Well, it's only one unit,
So
so
it's
I don't think it's gonna.
0.01 of
Right.
No, but it's at a
But it will
precedent.
come off, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It would come off.
It would come off there.
But they can't market the property chapter until they hear from us.
That we're not buying, that we're not interested in buying it. Have you spoken to I know this is Madam Chair 3, obviously. Have you spoken to the Housing Authority at all? Is there any kind of transition? I know that we're mixing federal and state and kinds of money in there. Is there anything that they can do with this, or would they be in favor of this, or?
I have not spoken to the Housing Authority.
I remember hearing something about this property.
What's the timing on it? I mean, obviously it's,
May
So-
2nd, right?
It came, this letter was received March 30th, so we'd have to let them
May 2nd.
I think it's what we went with.
May 2nd was Steve's.
When's our next meeting?
The 27th.
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 Yeah, if we need more info, then let's put it on the next.
Can we put it on, can we move this to that agenda?
Yeah,
And Mike,
we
could
still
you,
have-
could you check to see if the,
We can get
if the
someone-
Housing Authority has any movement on this? or-
meeting,
Or any
uh,
thoughts on this?
Yeah, the planning director and I are meeting with Missy next week, so.
Wonderful, yeah, because
And then just make
I know
sure-
they're scrambling around trying to find options, and I'm not sure if there's even, if there's a road or a path to make this, but I would rather run it by them first.
Let's make sure. Mark it on the
Next.
agenda.
The next item is, we discussed this briefly previously.
Yeah.
Cost of-
And this is the cost of living increase. So right now, the maximum that's allowed for a cost of living increase for retirees is 3%. But there was a law passed this year to allow an additional 2%, so up to 5%. And this would take effect if 10 communities in Bristol County approve it. As of right now, 9 communities have approved it. No one's voted against it, and there's a total of 14 towns in the county.
What's the bottom line impact, cost?
So,
And where does it
so
come
it
from?
would be 5% increase on 18,000 for FY '23, and it would increase the base to 20,000 for FY '24. No effect on the FY '23 with that. They can maintain the existing schedule length they have right now to fully fund the pension system in the county without increasing the contribution for the 5%. Increasing the base and granting 5% would increase liability by more, requiring a longer funding schedule. And funding schedules, so if you go to page 4, you can see the existing schedule. And if they do the 5%, the FY '23 only, do 20,000 base beginning in following year.
Like, is this a collective or is this an individual town thing? So meaning, it's a collective, right?
If the county votes for it,
But they already have the yes votes.
Yeah, 9 of them.
So why are we even wasting any time?
it's
on
9.
this?
If one more community votes yes, then it's in effect.
All right.
So I'll make a motion to allow for the
Yeah.
additional 2% COLA for current retirees of the Bristol County Retirement System for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
All right.
I'm gonna go aye on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess.
Number 10, now it's official.
We were doing real math there. I was like,
I was thinking more of like everyone, the town of Norton, retirees.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're doing the CINA. We're doing the CINA.
Sorry, where are we?
That used to happen in Holbrook every year, they vote against the Blue Hills Regional budget. Be the only town that voted against it. Yeah, so you
Just out of principle.
I guess so.
Alright, sorry, I just lost my page. That's my-
Yeah.
How do you lose your
Number
page? We
8,
don't have that
discussion
many
on,
pages.
Oh, yeah.
discussion on the vote approved CINA B.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
approved that in exec session, so now just
Has to be
ratify
Just
that in
ratify.
open session.
So is there a motion to reaffirm the vote that we approved? CINA.
Motion to approve the CINA B.
No, reaffirm the approval.
Reaffirm.
Yes, because we already approved it.
Is it, no, we
Right.
did- no, isn't this the vote, isn't this the vote, or
Yeah.
is this, yeah, this is the vote.
Yeah.
Motion to reaffirm or vote, I'm not sure which one.
Oh,
it is
because
at
we
this
voted
point.
on the,
We
To
voted
approve
on
the
it
CINA.
already.
we voted on the changes in exec. not the-
Yeah, it's,
Right.
this is the actual one.
It's just
so.
to do it in open.
All right, motion to approve the CINA B Local Union 9517, Unit 14 contract for, Mike, for what periods? 3-year period, for a 3-year period?
It will be for July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2020. No, 3 years.
6.
6.
As stated by the town manager.
Second.
Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
I assume yes. All right, is there other business that didn't come up in advance? Business town manager's report.
Just if you can look at what was in your packet. These are some of the legislative issues that the MMA has brought forward. And one of the ones that I like is the first one. And I would hope that at some point the state would do this. This is an act creating a municipal and public safety building authority, similar to the school building authority. I would have hoped that when they did the gambling, they would have allotted a portion of any revenue received from that to go directly to this fund, similar as they did that with the MSBA. So I would hope that's something that could move forward. And then the other ones would be decisions that the town would have to make, to allow to increase the meals tax.
So is that like for the first one, is that like DESI? It's like a creation like DESI, or is that?
It's like the MSBA.
MSBA.
So
Oh, wow.
there would be a state building authority. So if you were going to do, a project to renovate a building, let's say like we did the high school, and we got like over 50% reimbursement from the state. So something like that, so you get some reimbursement from the state for your town hall, public
Right.
safety.
So is this kind of where they manage the bond bill, or, I mean, obviously the governor still manages that, but they'll be the ones that are
Right.
saying, okay.
Yep.
Huh, now that's a big one.
So hopefully that has some legs. And there's a couple local option ones, and then there's some for the energy and environment. So if you think of any that you want to, you're interested in supporting, it'd be good to let the legislators know.
Meals tax, what is that, just increasing it?
It would be a local option. If it was approved, it would be a local option to allow a community to increase from 0.75 to 1.5.
Is there any other one that stood out to you, through you, Madam Chair? Is there any other MMA stuff that stood out to you?
No, I don't know what the intent is of an act providing for the establishment of sustainable water resource funds, because we already have the Clean Water Trust, so I'm kind of confused on that one.
Are all these in committee at this point? Assuming, because they have numbers next to them.
Yeah.
So next January, we'll see these either come out or not, or die in committee.
And then there's another local option, one to allow for the increase in the cap on civil penalties. An act relative to legal advertisements in online-only newspapers. That's an interesting one. On the next page, I hope this one should be a slam dunk. Last year, they changed the 30B procurement, rules. So to not have to go out for a full bid, the school, just for the school departments, they raised it to 100,000, but they left all the communities at 50,000. So I don't know why they did that, why they didn't keep it the same. So I'm assuming that one's a slam dunk and they will do that.
The act to returning liquor license control to municipalities.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too.
Yeah.
I don't just my best guess, I don't think that one has a shot.
No.
The
It
liquor
should, but
industry is
it's not.
very strong and those licenses are very valuable.
Yeah. No way to get that.
So. So if you want any more information, as you look at them, if you think of any, you want any more information on a particular bill, let me know and I'll get it for you.
All right, Norton Electricity.
Well, just in your packets, as we are getting to the point where we'll be going out to bid again, I asked Good Energy to provide information on the town of Norton and how the town of Norton has made out from the program. And as you can see, the current term was January of '21 to December of '23, and the rate was 0.10, we'll say 10 cents a kilowatt. And so the savings since the launch of the program through February of '23, residential customers had a savings of $6,733,636. Small commercial and industrial, $498,443, and large commercial and industrial, $1,680,402. So it's been a significant savings for people involved in the program. And hopefully, when we go out to bid for the next contract, we get a good rate too. I'm nervous about that, but.
I did have a question from one of the residents on this, and so you don't have any foresight on what it could potentially be? I didn't think so, I just
I
wanted
had the same question.
I know.
But they'll know with plenty of time to decide what they want to do, and you can drop, you can sign on and get off at any time. I know at home, I was at 9 cents, and I just got notice it's going up to 18
Yeah,
cents.
it switches, and the problem is, if you're not like paying attention or even know about it,
Yeah.
it's maddening. I just had a huge argument with National Grid on them screwing up my billing, and then how am I gonna fight how many kilowatts I've actually used as a unit?
My office fights with National Grid literally every single day.
Yeah,
Because we oversee all these condos, and yeah, it's just.
I want to put out a public service announcement, but my mother-in-law found, and I'll get everyone the info, but it's like this plug-in unit. It's called Volt something. It's $49. She got me 2 of them. I went from, on average, my electric bill could be $800 through National Grid. It was $30 the first month, and then the second month, it was -60. Now, I have I have a solar, so I also have other, it's crazy, but that's only been 2 months, so.
Please send me that information.
I will, and I read on it, and I've done, Consumer Reports did a whole thing on it, and it literally saves, they say, on an average $3,000 a year, and I totally believe it. And I have someone else who's also been using it and said the same thing.
Because we're at about $1,000 a month just at my house.
Yeah, ridiculous. Anyways.
Mr. Town Manager, I know the term depends on, is going to just the rate.
Right.
If it's doubled, which more likely it might be, does it make sense to, even if it goes up, say it's 22 just for a year or 2 years, does it make sense that that we negotiate, that we do a shorter contract?
Yeah, they look at, when they go out to bid, they look at all different contracts. They'll look at a short term or a long term, and they go over all the trends in the market and what they think is gonna happen in the future. I'm concerned about that because our contract for municipal and schools ends in December also. And we were fortunate that we got in a 5-year contract the last time at 8 cents. And so I'm not sure what that one's gonna end up either, but we'll be going out for that too this year.
Okay.
For those people watching, it's called the Volt Buddy.
That I'm promoting.
That Megan promoted.
I'm not getting any
You guys
kickback
are
for it.
concerned about that.
All right. Update on select board town report and dedication.
So, yeah, I actually, I will get the dedication done.
Yes, and I have this
Yes.
town report.
And by the
I'll
way,
assist you with that.
Michelle Brown is under the wire because she needs like a month, and we are April what? Next week is a month from the town meeting.
So she needs it yesterday.
Yes.
All right, we will put that
Sorry,
on.
Michelle.
And so we will actually have that at our next meeting. It'll be on the agenda and hopefully it won't be kicked anymore down the road.
Yeah, with taxes over on Tuesday, I should do it.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Where do we have, I know, select report email.
I just have two.
Yep.
Couple of things. The first one is, and I would, not challenge, but I want to just let the board know, I would like to probably work on a bylaw going forward not obviously this meeting, but after that, for a bylaw for overnight parking for commercial properties and probably permitting. What we're seeing, and we've been challenged on some of the growth of commercial, we see a lot of parking on there, and these vehicles are not excised. They're not excised or registered in
Where are
Norton.
they seeing them?
We've seen them, a couple of properties, like the Home Depot property, they've got some with two logistic companies that park their cars there overnight. They're not registered here, but I think this might, I don't want to do it for residents, I want to do it for commercial properties. I know of approximately about 70 vehicles amongst 3 different properties. I want to come to that. That came up, I started down this road because a resident asked me to kind of, how come they're doing it, we're not paying tax revenues. And the second was last night, during the Lions Club meeting, we had the Bristol County Mosquito Control in, and I'll pass the information on to Mike so we can get it on the website for spraying, drive-by spraying. They're about to start getting going, and there was a really informational thing I found out. There are 53 types of mosquitoes.
Awesome.
And only the females draw blood. It seemed very appropriate. So,
Well, and everyone should know, it's a free service, so
Yeah.
you just have
Yeah,
to sign
everybody
up for it.
yeah.
Everyone should do it. If you encourage your neighbors to do it, it just helps them.
I think it was Tuesdays last year that came out.
Yeah.
I'll share it with the select board members so we can all, I'd rather just get all the information so we can individually share it, then we'll share it on the town website as well.
I was working on a remote policy for meetings, so I'll have that for the next meeting.
Kevin, do you have anything?
I do not.
No. Okay. I approve the invoice and payroll warrants as listed in the agenda. All right, our next meeting is on April 27th, the Thursday, so obviously that's right before town meeting, town election. We know we have a few items that we have to, make sure that we address, so are timely. We will all, yep.
So just in addition to announcements, just look top one.
Yeah. Is this open to everyone? I guess so, yes.
Okay.
Okay. On Friday, April 28th. Oh, sorry. At 11 a.m., we're going to have the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of Norton's new Senior and Community Support Center. So all are welcome. Parking and transportation is available from the Norton Senior Center. 55 West Main Street at 10:15 a.m. and at the Town Hall at 70 East Main Street at 10:30 a.m. And there'll be a reception to follow at the Norton Senior Center. The ceremony will be taking place outdoors and be held rain or shine. So if you want to RSVP as requested, please reach out to Mike Units.
Gonna be there.
Great, did you get that?
Got it.
Should be a great day.
The Honorable Mayor.
Yes, we'll be in attendance. We got it.
Yep.
Wonderful. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Kevin,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Stephen,
Yes.
I turn yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.